This video aims to introduce you to the Ecosystems and Change unit of work, and in particular, it is an introductory module. So the goal of this particular activity is, first of all, to explain how plastic pollution harms marine wildlife, to describe how plastic waste ends up in the oceans, and lastly, to identify some solutions to the problem of plastic pollution. Now, to start off with, there is a little bit of a contextual paragraph. So, for many of us, oceans play an important role in our lives. Beaches set the scenes for family holidays, swimming, surfing, and fishing. Oceans cover about 70% of the Earth's surface, and many people around the world rely on them for food and to make a living. The oceans are also teeming with life. The huge diversity of sea creatures, known collectively as marine wildlife, includes magnificent whales, colourful fish, delicate corals, and ancient sea turtles. Now, with what we have here now is a little bit of a 360 degree interactive view of our oceans. So if I just open it quickly,
Lady Elliot Island is a coral cay on the southern tip of Australia's greatest natural wonder, the Great Barrier Reef. Teeming with life in a highly protected area, it's the ideal location to test new scientific equipment, like this 360-degree camera. The island is famous for its manta rays. It's one of the top locations in the world to go diving with these gentle giants. The coral formations are simply stunning. It's also a nesting site for hundreds of green turtles, which swim amongst the coral all year round. We came here as it's renowned for having crystal clear water. And when you need to film something special, Lady Elliot always puts on a show.
so if I just pause this here, so the interactive tells us that to control what we see in this 360 degree video, I'm just going to click on this screen, and if we just quickly scroll around, we can actually see it as a 360 degree view. So if I just click playing this video, I can just see all around what is happening underneath Lady Elliot Island. So this interactive, it's really immersive, and I think it's really worthwhile for you to pause this video and actually have a try for yourself. Moving on, we have here a bit of an introductory poll. Students have been asked, name as many different types of marine wildlife as you can. Now, different types, I'm happy for it to be different species or as a general type of animal. So if we just quickly take a look at the array of responses, we can see that turtle appears quite a few times. So we've got turtle, turtles, turtle. We've got fish, so the broader spectrum. We've got some dugong, manta rays, more fish, more turtles. We've got some coral. More types of fish, manta rays. So there's quite a lot of marine wildlife that the students have actually picked out in not only that interactive, but what they know about marine wildlife. Not too sure why a bird has popped up here, but we'll leave it there for now. Now here we've got a quite colourful image of a coral reef, and it tells us that coral reefs support a huge variety of marine life, whether it's as a food source or even as a shelter or a habitat. Now we have to actually consider the problem of plastic pollution. So over the past few decades, our oceans have really started to change, and not in a good way. This particular video down below was filmed approximately 20 kilometers off the coast of Bali in Indonesia. Now, you've been asked to watch it carefully and consider these 3 questions. What do you see? What do you think about it? And what does it make you wonder? So I won't actually play this video. You can pause this recording, jump onto your activity, play the video, and consider those 3 questions. Okay, so once you've finished watching that video and you've considered these 3 categories, now I want you to pause this video and actually write something down in each of these 3 spaces. Okay, so if we take a look at what some of the students have come up with over here. Some students saw rubbish, water, fish, and coral. And what it prompted them to think about was how dirty the water is. How much rubbish did we as humans put into the ocean? As a result of this rubbish, how many animals actually die? And ultimately, how can we as a society help clean up that rubbish? So those are really good questions to consider when you were watching that video. Now, what it might make you ponder or wonder about is how did this water system get this dirty? How can we clean it up? And this is actually a really interesting one. Why are humans so selfish? So those are some really good questions or some thoughts that to have popped up in your watching of that video. Now, unfortunately, a lot of animals are not just swimming amongst the plastic, but they're also eating it. Plastic has actually been found in the stomachs of seabirds, whales, and many other animals. So if we actually watch this video, you'll see the effects that our plastic pollution has on marine wildlife. This particular video focuses on the turtle population. So once again, I'm not going to play this video. You can pause this recording and take a look at it for yourself. So it's probably making you consider, where is all this plastic actually coming from? Now, it is a global problem, and whether you may not live near a beach, the plastic waste you produce can still affect marine animals. Plastic is lightweight, so rain and wind can carry it to rivers, streams, and other bodies of waters. From there, the plastic is often carried on a journey all the way out to the ocean. Some scientists estimate that about 80% of the plastic that ends up in our ocean come from land. The other 20% would come from ships, including nets and fishing lines. So if we just take a look at this image here, at a single glance, you can see there is so much debris, but there is also so much plastic in this image. I can see countless bottles, what looks like a container over here. Bits and pieces just lying around, accumulating. It's not that visible in this image, but if we just zoom in, even all along the banks over here, that also looks to be plastic, and even at the back over here. So in one small area alone, we can actually see how much pollution, plastic pollution there is. Now you've been asked to identify some of the pathways that plastic waste can take to reach the ocean. Keep in mind that there are important pathways that aren't shown, such as the direct pumping of plastic waste. So given the 4 options that we've got here, it's important to consider what actually happens where. So here we can see, let's start down the bottom here. Here we can see some bins, and it looks to be, there's a bit of a gust, and the rubbish is actually coming out of these bins. So it's worthwhile to consider that litter from the city streets is washed through the stormwater drains into rivers and streams. So that's one to consider. Also, if we look at this image down the bottom, this section here, we've got a ship, we've got a fishing net that seems to be tossed into the waterway. So it may be worthwhile to consider this point here. Fishing lines and nets are lost or discarded. So if you go ahead and drag this one into its appropriate space. Here, if we jump back to this left-hand side, we have what appears to be landfill. Once again, we've got a gust of wind. And we can consider this one here. Waste from rubbish bins and landfill sites is blown or washed away. So that may be a point to consider. And this one up the top here, it looks like it's coming from the city through the sewer pipes. So it may be worthwhile to consider what that would represent. So if we just show the answer for this one, this is what a correct diagram would look like. So we've got the litter from the streets, we've got the landfill and waste from rubbish bins getting blown away, fishing nets and lines, and plastics from toilets. Moving on, once plastic has reached the ocean, it can be carried around the world by winds and ocean currents. Eventually, it might be washed up on a remote tropical beach or on a coastline in Antarctica. For this reason, plastic pollution is a global problem, which is a problem that affects the whole world and can't be solved by one country working alone. A lot of plastic collects in the open ocean, trapped in large circular currents. The largest is located in the North Pacific Ocean and is known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It is estimated to contain 8 trillion pieces of plastic that together weigh 80,000 tons. So, this is just a little infographic that the 80,000 tons of that 8 trillion pieces of plastics is equivalent to approximately 16,500 buses. And in terms of its size, that tells us it takes up 1.6 million square kilometers, which is roughly equivalent to 6 times the size of New Zealand. both islands put together, north and south. Now, this particular stretch of ocean, the North Pacific Ocean, is actually located between Hawaii and California. So, some of the major ocean currents that move the water and subsequently the plastic around the world's ocean can be seen in this diagram here. So what it tells us is that it circulates the water and the plastic around through these patterns. So the direction of the arrow shows the movement of the water and the rubbish. So, if you pause this video, there is a Cosmos article that you can read here. It is a worthwhile read to see the impact of the most plastic polluted place on Earth and the effect that it's having on that particular region. Okay, then it takes us to a interactive here. So there, if we click on this link here, it tells us we've got some instructions. So click on a point in the ocean and choose a starting location for plastic. Wait a few seconds for the program to calculate how the plastic will move over time. And this particular program is based on real data about ocean currents collected by scientists over many years. Colors will appear to show the likelihood of plastic traveling to a certain area. Red is highly likely, green is less likely. A timer in the top right corner shows the time since the plastic entered the ocean, up to a maximum of 10 years. So, I won't play the interactive for you, I'll let you pause this video and have a try for yourself. Moving on, question 4. Using the interactive, click on a point in the ocean close to where you live. If your plastic waste enters the ocean there, where is it likely to end up after 10 years? So, depending on the location that you've started off with, your rubbish or your plastic waste will end up in a different location. So, there is no right or wrong answer here. It just depends on where your starting point was. With question 5, you are now asked, some people think that the ocean near where they live looks clean, so they don't need to worry about the plastic problem. Explain why everyone's actions might contribute to the global problem of plastic pollution. Keeping in mind that plastic pollution is a global problem. So what we're looking for here is that everyone's actions might contribute to the problem of plastic pollution because plastic waste has many ways of reaching the sea. For example, it can enter rivers and streams from cities and travel all the way to the ocean. It is a global problem because plastic from one part of the world can be carried around the world by ocean currents. So the problem may not be visible at a beach close to where you live, but your waste could still be causing problems in another part of the world. So it is worthwhile to note that even though the ocean near you might look clean, the water can still contain pieces of plastic that are too small to see. Also, some plastic objects are heavy and actually sink to the seafloor. So, in terms of where our plastic ends up or how much of it actually reaches our oceans, there is a quick video here that you can watch that explains that in slightly more detail. So once again, pause this video and you can switch over and watch that very quickly. So hopefully you've had some time to watch through that clip, and if we see over here, there is an optional space for you to take some notes down about what you saw in that video, even if it's just to jot your memory or to remind you if you come back through this to study. Question 7. According to the video, the amount of plastic waste that leaks into the oceans each year is at least 8 million tons. So that is an incredible mass to have in our oceans of plastic waste. Moving on to question 8. Identify at least 2 ways that plastic waste in our oceans can harm marine wildlife. So because it asks for at least 2, it's a minimum of 2 responses. You can do more than that. So some sample ones that you may have considered is animals can get tangled up in the plastic, preventing them from hunting for food or escaping predators. Another response could be animals can be suffocated by plastic waste that block their airways. Or animals can mistakenly eat pieces of plastic but can't digest them. The plastic collects in their stomachs, causing them to slowly starve because they can't digest real food. Or even plastic can damage the habitats of marine wildlife. So all of these responses are perfectly good reasons as to how our plastic waste can harm our marine wildlife in the oceans. If you had something different, as long as it shows us that there is a negative effect, or as to why there is a negative effect of this plastic in our oceans, that would be considered correct. Now, a problem with many solutions. Global problems like plastic pollution can sometimes feel too big to solve, but even the biggest problems have solutions. This video below shows one solution that this person here has helped develop to clean up our oceans. So take a moment to pause this video and you can see the effect of, or the impact of their contributions. Once again, you have an optional space here for you to take notes. Question 10. There are lots of ways, big and small, that we can help solve the problem of plastic pollution. For example, we can pick up plastic litter from the beach or avoid buying bottled water. What are some other solutions to the problem of plastic pollution? What could you do to help? So if we look at this brainstorm that these students have come up with, we've got recycle, purchase items secondhand, stop buying water, recycle plastic, use the return and earn program, just spreading the message of cleaning up after yourselves, leaving no physical footprint in our environment, supporting Clean Up Australia Day, bring usable containers, reusable straws, sea bins, which is what these 2 gentlemen here have come up with, recycle cups. So this list, it's quite lengthy and it's got a ton of very positive and interesting ways that you can actually help reduce the problem of plastic pollution. So that's all for the introductory module. So make sure, if you haven't already, go through your activities, make sure you're marking it as you go along, or if you need to adjust your answers, make sure you do that. And down below here, where my mouse would be, you should see a blue button that says "I'm finished, show my teacher."